welcome everyone. The loose outline I have for today is to share a little bit about my coaching and leadership development point of view, and then share how I've been experimenting with AI to support that, give us some time to talk about what comes up, and then share a case study that I'm working on. I think the best thing I have going for me is that I'm curious and very open to experimenting and don't feel a lot of need to defend my relevance, which ends up having me discover a lot of ways to support my own relevance through different experiments. When AI or when ChatGPT 4 came out in 2023, I was leading the conscious leadership program for a company called Asana. It's a software company, and I was responsible for doing executive coaching, management coaching, and then conscious leadership coaching for the entire employee population. And when AI came out, all of a sudden we got this directive from above, which was like, everybody use AI, everybody use AI, you got to use AI, hurry up and use AI. And then we just kind of ran around with chickens with our head cut off. And so that was really my first learning, and that was AI is not an outcome. I already had outcomes. The company already had outcomes. I already had a job I was doing, which was to support team functioning and growth. And to lead with AI as the thing ended up with a lot of confusion. So what I learned first of all is knowing what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do without AI is a fundamental requisite for seeing how different tools can support me to do what I'm doing better. So I first like to take a few moments and just let you in on my point of view of leadership development, and this is how I ground myself. You may have a completely different point of view, and that's okay. But my first learning is that if I don't know what my point of view is and what I'm doing, I won't be able to use different tools to support me in that. So that's the first, basically I just bumped against a wall and failed my way forward in life. And this is no different. So let me take a moment. I'll go ahead and share my screen and just kind of ground us in where I'm coming from first. And the notion is that I found a tool that can help me lower the cost of truth, and I want to share that with you in service of what we do in coaching. My point of view is very aligned with conscious leadership, and the way I consider conscious leadership is it starts with awareness, then moves to choice, and then moves to responsibility. And more awareness equals more choice. The more I can become aware of, the more choices I have. And the more choices I have, the more responsibility I can take for the actions that come out of those choices moving forward. So anything I can do as a team coach, as an executive coach, to increase awareness, to support the leader and having more choice so they can take responsibility into what they're putting into motion in the world, in the company, and themselves. That's how I view my job. And so that's personally how I ground myself and how I define conscious leadership. And so what I've found over and over again when I work with teams is it's never what's on the table that's getting in the way of the team's performing. It's what's under the table that we dare not talk about, dare not reveal, or created some secret agreements we'll never talk about the stuff. So we continue to make goals, KPIs, strategies, implementation plans, new moves, new actions, and nothing shifts. And nothing shifts because we've never gotten below the table to see what's underlying and getting in the way of doing the things we already know work. And those are things like fears, loyalties, identity, cares, concerned, agendas, protection. So a lot of the work I do as a coach is trying to create enough safety where we can start to reveal these things in a safer way so we can start to work with them. Another point of view I have is that I'm able to witness people's behavior, but I'm not often able to witness what's having them behave that way. And if I really understood what you cared about most, then any behavior you were doing would make perfect sense to me. I might not agree with the behavior, but at least I would understand it. So much of the work that I do is trying to get underneath so then we can then create new behavior in a way that aligns with the person. So in sum, my point of view, essentially in coaching, again, we can have many different point of views. Mine is, I try to make the invisible visible so it can become workable. This is what I do without AI. This is what I do in life. And this is kind of my philosophy of leadership. And then the question comes, how might I, Chris, use AI to support this? So that's just a grounding. And that would be my invitation to y'all as we go forward. What do you do? I mean, what do you actually do? What is your actual point of view? And how might we use technology to support that? So the first time I ever used it, I was coaching an executive at Asana, and this was over Zoom. And I recorded the transcript. I recorded the Zoom call with the executive. And this was like really early on. And I said to the executive, hey, would you mind if I ran this through AI just to experiment with it? I'll make it anonymous. And they were up for it. So I got consent. And so this was early on, and I just dumped the whole Zoom transcript into AI. And I asked one question, and that was, what are these leaders' blind spots? What are they saying without saying it? I want you to read between the lines of this transcript and tell me what their actual concern is, their fear is. What's their governing rule for how they operate? What might they have to let go of in terms of identity to show up more for the conversation that the world is having with them today? And all I did was get curious. This is what I think about normally with people without AI. And I just asked the AI this. It came up with this list. All right. So then I went back to the executive coach. I had my list and I said, hey, listen, this isn't me. This is just some tool that says this. What do you think? And I held up the list, and the two of us kind of looked at the list. And the first thing I noticed was this executive's shoulders dropped. Because it no longer was me and the executive, it was this third thing. And the two of us just turned and looked at the third thing together. And what I realized is when it's not just us, there's some sort of like power dynamic or cost of truth that changes, that had this person be more open. And then I looked at this totally, I see that from Joel, putting something in the middle. And then we looked at it and it was like, hey, what do you think? Maybe it lands, maybe it doesn't. Well, I mean, this stuff was like 99% accurate, I believe. And they looked at it and we just went through it together one by one and discarded. And so the other thing I learned is man, AI is like an MRI. It can read between the lines and kind of see things about me that I don't see myself. And the two of us now looking together at this turbocharged what we could accomplish in relationship with this information. So wow. And that was a 3-minute experiment in the beginning. And so what I noticed is that awareness increased. And then we explored new choices and new actions together. And that was the seed for everything that's followed since from them, that little interaction. So curiosity, a willingness to experiment, a willingness to be wrong. And then from there, I discovered a lot of things. So I'll share a little bit more on what I discovered now. And again, this is all grounded in, what I'm doing and what I care about as me personally as a coach. So the first thing I realized is that truth has a social cost. I've been in rooms with executives, I've been in rooms with teams. I've been an employee where I get a survey, like an engagement survey that asks me how I'm doing. And there's a little part of me that's like, I don't think I'm going to be anonymous here with this when I respond to this. I don't know if I'm willing to share. So whether it's with teammates, with coaches, there's oftentimes a type of concealment that occurs to maintain social relationship. Like some of the great work with Gabor Mate that really resonates with me is like, as a child, I learned to mute my self-expression to maintain perceived attachment, because attachment was existential. And so on teams, I can see myself doing this. I'm not going to really share what's true for me because I don't want to get voted off the island. I don't want to hurt the relationships. I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. And so I've just discovered that being truthful can have a social cost, and the people I work with mitigate that. Totally understandable. The problem is I don't know what's true for them. And if I don't know what's true for them, I'm working on partial information. And plans built on partial information are only going to be partially successful. So oftentimes the most useful information seems to be the hardest for us to say out loud. So here's the discovery number one, is that people don't lie to AI. Or maybe better said, people are less likely to conceal to AI when they feel it's private and when it's not in front of other people. So to me, this is a gold mine, because if I'm about increasing awareness and helping the person understand more of what's already there, any tool that can help me do that better is going to support what I'm doing anyway. So I discovered that AI lowers the cost of truth. And when I can lower the cost of truth, the signal goes up, the richness goes up, and we have more to work with. So that's the first thing I discovered bumping along the way. Second thing I discovered, I'll speak for myself at least, is that, people are patterned. I'm never not patterning. I'm talking to you right now like the way I talk to people right when I'm giving talks. I'm in a pattern right now. I'm never not patterning. I show up on a Zoom call in the way I show up on Zoom calls. I handle conflict with teams the way I handle conflict. I act under threat the way I act under threat. So I tend to think we never have problems, we just have patterns. Teams don't have problems, teams have patterns. And how can we start to look at the patterns? And so what I discovered is that AI makes these invisible patterns visible. And often it's the patterns that are running the show. So what types of patterns does it make visible? Contradictions, blind spots, hidden values, patterns of relating in teams, limiting beliefs, repeated themes. So I now see I've got two golden pieces of discovery. I can use AI to lower the cost of truth, and I can use AI to support illuminating patterns that might be under the table and blocking what we're doing. So the way I kind of put this all together was, all right, AI can be a mirror and show me things about myself, perhaps things that I haven't seen yet. It can help with insights into what's happening, and it can also suggest new moves and actions for me to take. And I set out to replace myself 100% with AI as a team coach. I didn't go in assuming like AI can't do this or only humans are creative. I just tried to replace myself completely. And then when I tried to do that, and I tested it a few times with Udemy and with Pixar, teams at these companies, then I learned what AI cannot do. So I backed into this. And what I learned is that one thing AI doesn't have is a nervous system. And there's something about two humans humaning together that creates this field or container where insights can start to be assimilated, engaged with, and it's that process which can lead to change. And I didn't see that coming in, and I see that now. So instead of AI doing everything, what I've discovered is insights without a human holding a container, or a coach holding a container, are just information. New moves, new actions, a list of new actions given to someone. They can try them, but if they don't have a way to come back and process it, or even process and co-create those together, they're not going to do it. So what I've learned now is that the essential thing is both. AI is great as a mirror, but without a human as a container, That's not going to drop from the information level into the embodied level. And then without a learning loop supported by AI and human coming back, digestion, moving new moves, nothing's going to stick. So in culmination of this, what I discovered is that AI is great at giving me information, and information is not transformation. And in order for the transformation to occur, there needs to be a human being like us holding the space in the team, the group, or with an individual. So let me pause there. And yeah, well, I'm just going to take a breath. That was like 2 or 3 years of bumping against the wall distilled into 7 or 10 minutes. And I'm feeling kind of tender of the journey, and also knowing that this is how I understand things today, but the day is young. And I'm surely will learn something later today. So in a moment, I'm going to ask Vanessa to set us up in breakout rooms, and so we can have a chance to kind of digest and talk through some of the themes that I've been bringing, and kind of bring them from here to here in yourself. And those themes are AI isn't the outcome. Our work and what we've been trying to do is the outcome. The outcome exists before the AI. AI can help make the invisible visible. It can help lower the cost of truth. It can help surface patterns. But without a human, it's just going to be information. So these are some of the themes. Anything that's coming up for you, any reactions. I come from a kind of a conscious leadership, welcome everything place. So if something comes up for you like, this is a joke, I hate this, there's no way, it'll never work, like, I invite all of that, because really it's already in the room. So let's just make friends with how we already are. Maybe the outcome of this could be pretty good. It's like nice to make space for that possibility in there, and really hearing how the tool, it's landing that the tool supports our humaning and what we bring to the table. Until 10 years ago, I didn't know anything existed below my neck. I just was like all head. Let's think of the concepts, the philosophies. And meanwhile, there was a ton of data flowing up to me that I wasn't paying attention to, wasn't incorporating. And it turns out my body's always truthing, and it knows long before I know what the deal is. And so just as that comes up, there's something about two nervous systems being together that can help it come in and assimilate. All right, I'll share a little bit more. I want to give you a real life example of taking this out with a real team and seeing how it worked. So I'll share a little bit on that right now. This is one way to employ these concepts that we've been exploring. Okay, so we built a platform that is an embodiment of all the things we were talking about. This platform can support these conversations between coach and a coachee with teams. It can be used for conflict transformation, for navigating change in an organization, for assimilating new leaders into an existing team. But this particular use case was a 360 degree, a conversational 360 with a cohort of 17 leaders in a leadership training program that went over 9 months. So we created this kind of 360 light version that all the leaders took at the beginning of the program to get a sense from how they're showing up. Self-review, manager review, peer and direct report review. This is probably very familiar with you. It's like the 360. And the way that this platform works is that to give you kind of an overview of the deal is that the first thing that happens is that instead of doing a survey with a bunch of different rate 1 to 5, these are conversations that the AI interviewer is having with the employee. So the person who is invited to give feedback simply has a chat and talks about, hey, What's it like to work with this person? What are their strengths, etc. We configure this to support, direction, accountability, and commitment. So the person has a conversation. That's the big difference. And because they're having this private conversation, the signal goes way up, the rich signal. So instead of just hearing like, how's it going? 3.5 out of 5? I don't know what that means. This is like a ton of qualitative data that's put into the system. And the reason why this works is that no one sees these chats other than the respondent. So I don't see the chats. The manager doesn't see the chats. The HR person, these are in the system. And that privacy massively increases signal. And so this AI interviewer has conversations with a bunch of different people at scale, and it can do them all at the same time, these private conversations. And then it rolls it up. It takes all those conversations and then looks across all of them, anonymizes it, and draws insights across that rich amount of data. I mean, we had 93 responses, and then creates a report, an analysis for the leader and the coach. So that's an arc on the general flow of how this platform works. One other thing that is important to me is that, like, I can't tell you how many times as in a company, I was asked to do a survey. I hate them. It's like I've got other work to do and I'm being asked to do this thing. It seems like a chore. And to me, it always has seemed extractive, like, hey, give me something and I have no idea what I get back. So when we put this platform together, one of the foundational things is if you're going to give your time to have this chat for 3 minutes, 5 minutes more, we're going to give you something back. And so what you're seeing is that after each person responds to one of these interviews, the interviewer gives that individual their own private reflection. So it reflects back what they noticed. It encapsulates what they said, in this case about the leader, but it also gives them something special to take away. So it's like a little coaching moment for the respondent. And this one, the final thing it says is, hey, what's a concern you've noticed but haven't brought to Jordan? In this case, it's the fictional manager, because you're still waiting until you can make it cohesive or concrete enough to cut through. So it's based upon their chat, it's giving them a little coaching moment, which is just important to me that it's not extractive 100%. Then it creates this report, and the output of this fictitious, one is their particular 360 degree. So in this one, they were looking for, when we created this, it was really polling for 3 different aspects of their leadership: direction, alignment, and commitment. And it kind of rolls up the scores that there were 3 score places for people to enter in that empirical data, and then summarizes their qualitative data. It gives them a little bit of a look between how they view themselves and how others view them. Surfaces the themes, and then does a deep dive on the themes. Shows key insights, gaps, patterns for the person, and some voices from the feedback, all anonymized. And ultimately, at the end, it surfaces some potential development opportunities. So this is a report. The cool thing is that it's anonymized, and it's coming from, we had almost like 90,000 words of qualitative feedback on leadership. But since it's this audience, I wanted to show you this one thing, which is, for me, is like massive unlock. And that is, I, as the coach, can then have a conversation with AI about this person. And I can start to interrogate it and drill down. So now, imagine I'm the coach, I have access to the 360. I'm just going to ask it, what's one truly novel insight about Jordan? So imagine an interactive report where the AI has access to all the raw conversations, but I don't. So strangely, the AI is protecting the privacy of people, not violating it. And I'm just going to ask, what's one truly novel insight about my coachee in this case? And having all this information, the AI comes back and and says, hey, their composer's doing a double duty. It's both a leadership asset and it's also a feedback suppressor. Wow, that's an interesting insight. The team isn't suppressed, they're reassured into silence. That's the subtle version. So it's this really fine-tuned thing. It maybe might or maybe wrong. But here, as a coach, before I even meet with them, I can start to ask and have a conversation based upon this rich data. So like, what are their blind spots or anything else I want to know? And I can continue to go through this. So, again, if I pull the camera back, I'm just trying to have this system help me do what I do better. I found that it solves the cold start problem. People going through a reflection first already have this information. I can arm myself. I can think it through. I can start to take some of this in before the conversation. And then we have these conversations with the folks. And, just one final slide before I turn it back is, in this case, in this pilot we did, what I discovered, which I didn't know, is that there was actual four-way value established. And I didn't see that going in. And what I mean by that is the respondents themselves got value because we gave them their personal reflection. It wasn't totally extractive. It was give and take. The leaders got value because they got this deep, honest mirror to themselves while also maintaining the privacy of the respondents. The coaches got value because they can unpack and explore and have this conversation based upon all this rich data while maintaining privacy. And then the organization got value because we can look across the 17 leaders and the 93 responses, and on an org-wide level start to see how the organization has implicit culture that's getting in the way of what they want their leaders to do. So invisible rules, culture that's disincentivizing what they espouse they want to do, blockers around the relational thing. So deep value for the org, for the leaders, the coaches, and respondents. And if you're interested, if you've got some people or companies that you're working with and you want to have a conversation about this, I'll give you my contact information. Just reach out. Let's explore together to see what's there. So that's a bit in an hour of time. We talked about, starting with a point of view first, then seeing how this tool might help us do what we're already doing anyway, but do it better. And then I showed you a way of how we're implementing this. This is one case study. I love to use this for conflict transformation. I love to use it for navigating change, which is happening so much with these reorgs and layoffs. In a way, the interview is a intervention because it's a reflection. Like, you can't get out of having that without reflecting. And sometimes that's the moment of reflection that employees don't have because they're living in the task world. So that's what I got. I'll turn it over to Joel right now. And just, I really appreciate being with you. I kind of feel like us are on the front lines out there figuring this out together. And it's great to know I'm not alone. So yeah, thanks. And I'll turn it over to